you could develop unique gifts. And you may not judge them or think of them as being gifts because you might have judged them. And that's what I did. And so I'm going to talk about it so that more of us can move over that kind of self-judgment that we carry around, because we all have it to varying degrees. But I just wrote an article where I said I was given the solution for the world. And I've known that that was absolutely true. I knew it a while ago, but to say those words was too uncomfortable because you don't want to be judged. And then I didn't want to even talk about how I knew that and how I had that information. But I know that I do. And at this time in my life, I'm 75 years old. And at this time in my life, I can no longer hold that back because I want to see more people thrive. I want to see more people become happy, become successful, and contribute to our world because I know that every person has that within them. And the reason I'm talking about it is because I couldn't talk about what I was doing. I had a challenging life in the beginning of my life, my early years. I was afraid all the time. I was depressed as a teenager. I had all kinds of things going on with me and could never find my way. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I tried to do everything that I thought, my parents were doing, and none of that stuff worked. And I kept moving around in my life trying to find that place. And in 1988, I started doing two things. Well, first, I started doing vocal coaching in 1988. And then right after that, I started doing automatic writing. But that didn't make sense why I was doing that. But I was receiving guidance. I was connected and I knew that it had happened. I connected to a universal consciousness that was giving me information that was changing my life. But I kept it hidden because I thought people are going to judge me. They're not going to understand this. And this was never about anything being religious or any of that. This was more about consciousness. I knew that what was happening, I was contacting consciousness. Now, yes, I had my own religious beliefs growing up, thinking, being Christian or whatever you think of it, but it was different. I was raised a Christian Scientist. That gave me more shame because that wasn't acceptable either, because we weren't supposed to use medicines or anything like that. But I couldn't do that. I was getting sick all the time. So it wasn't working for me. I go, why is that happening? And I would ask my grandmother, because she was never sick and she could do everything. And she said to me, and I'll never forget it. She goes, you work to the level of your understanding. I was a child. I didn't know what that meant. I know what it means now, however. But then something else started to happen as I'm receiving this information. I'm moving through so many difficult, challenging things in my life. In 1990, I discovered I was HIV positive, but then they said, well, you don't need any medication now. I couldn't figure out why that was happening, and that went on for years. Then I had all these other people told me that I have to have surgery because my back was a mess. All these back pains and aches and everything. I was I was losing so much work because I couldn't move because my back was out all the time, as it's called. But that got healed as well. But then I came down with something else called cluster headaches. And those were called the suicide headaches. And I thought, I'm not going to live through this. It was that uncomfortable because you do want to kill yourself. And I had many nights where that seemed like the option that I was going to take. But then I ended up curing those as well because I kept receiving information from Wilhelm that was telling me what was going on. But then I still had shame because I can't tell people this is happening. Then in 2008, about that, someone found messages on my desk at my office at the time and started reading them and said, these are really helping me. And I still was embarrassed about telling them how they came about because I couldn't explain it. It didn't make any sense. Then later on, people started asking me for the messages, so I created an email list just to send them to those folks. Then they started telling me how it helped them build businesses, how it helped them move through so many difficult things in their lives, but I kept pushing it away because my underlying shame was not allowing me to accept this, that I could have done it. And then I didn't want to be judged. And then I was this introvert anyway, and didn't want to be in public or be seen. So I kept hiding it. Then I started to see something else. The world started to change. And I knew exactly why it was changing, because there were generational beliefs that we were all going to have to face. And I had that information. And I knew that people could move through their lives and become successful if they moved through those blockages, which we all have. But again, I couldn't own it, and I couldn't put the worth on it. I couldn't put the value on it. I saw people transforming, but I couldn't think that I was the one who brought that through. I've went through so much of my life suffering with so many different things, and then they're all gone, and I'm at 75 and I'm going in a different direction. But I'm still holding back because I'm worried that people are going to judge me. I was just in a group this morning, my men's group on Saturday, and a wonderful guy was talking about all the things he went through, the cancer things and all that. And he discovered that he had this, that he could give to others. He said, I can't worry about who's going to believe it. And then he set a price for it, and he wasn't going to let that become any less than that, because that's the other thing we do. We have this built-in money shame as well. Abundance. We couldn't possibly be worth anything. That's a generational thing as well. So I'm changing that today. After I published that article, I knew that I had to change, and I want you to read it so you'll see. What happened was, the other day, I started to see that I developed this different ability. I'm a savant, and they called it a genius, whatever, but I couldn't even own that. I wrote articles about it, but talking about it was a little challenging, because I'm going to face criticism. I'm going to face judgment. I'm going to face all those things that I'm going to run from. I'm no longer doing that, because I know that this work, and I've said this before, but I can tell you why now. I didn't want to do live channeling, first of all. That was something I wasn't going to do, but then I started doing it, and all of this information came through that was aligned with everything happening in the world. There's a video from a year ago today that I channeled that says everything that's happening right now. And if you listen to it, you'll think it's happening right now. But that's how I was able to receive information, because everything is consciousness. We have different levels of consciousness. And when we can move to a higher state level of consciousness, then we live better lives. We heal. We become more productive. All of those things happen. And I have that information. And so I'm going to own that now. And I want to work with those people who want to become who they could be, because I know that I have that information and I can't hide it. When I would do, well, in 2021, when I was told that, first of all, I was given all of this information, 37 years it's been. But then the specific year, 2012, which was another shift in consciousness of our planet, I was given all this information. That was challenging. I went to an Akashic Records and they verified it. I still doubted it. That underlying guilt and shame from wherever it came from, I said, I've got to let go of that. So then when I could see people struggling in the world because of all the changes that were happening, especially with the war, all of that information I had, and I knew why it was occurring. And if more people understood it, they would come to a greater sense of peace and love for themselves, and understand what they're here to do, because I know everyone is here to do something. Then when I started doing live channeling, that information would come through, and then I started doing private channeling, and that was even better, because now I'm getting direct information for that individual, because you have an energetic blueprint, a DNA, and I downloaded that information. So I'm walking the other day and I thought, what were the astrological changes that happened in February? I'm just saying, this is exactly what happened. And I went to my Gemini. They gave me all the dates. I said, let me see what Wilhelm gave me. And I put it in there. And the Gemini was freaking out. How did that happen? Because this is so accurate. It's so accurate with everything that was going on. And they explained it all. And I wrote it down. It's part of that article. I don't think I put all of it in there, but you'll see some of it. And then earlier, I was shown that I had downloaded information about all the global events that were happening, and they were giving us advice how to move over them, because it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual if you think of that way. But you don't even have to, because it's all energy, and you just have to connect with you. And my life was meant to bring this in. And so that's what I'm doing now. But I had to explain it, and I'm sending this mainly to all those who are in my program right now, all those who are on my list, so they know, and also friends and family, because they didn't know either, because I didn't. And it was all revealed, and it's been surprising. But the thing that was holding it back was my holding back who I could become. I don't want anyone else to do that, because I know every soul born, that was the thing that came through in the information. I was meant to bring in a work, especially when we're going through a time of great division in our world and people are thinking they're not enough or they're inadequate. I was given the information that said, no, that's not true. And that's what I'm supposed to give to others. And then we could heal, not only in your life, but in our world, because we would start to understand the importance of all individuals. And that's what I was given. You could develop unique gifts that no one has ever seen, but you can't judge them, because they were coming about for a reason, because you were born for a reason. And so now I'm going to honor that. And I hope you do as well. And I want people to check out the work. I'm going to be changing things again, because I know a lot of people will not do this. And so I have to make it, as the guy told me this morning, he had to set his rate at something that he knew what he had gone through in his life was going to command the worth and value. And that's what I have to do, because I've known for the longest time this work should have been at least thousands of dollars, 10, 20,000, if I'm going to give it to someone and it's going to transform their life and they own it forever and they're a completely different person. That's what I'll be doing. But I want you to do the same thing, because you could develop some unique, valuable gifts, and you might not own them because you've just been afraid. We can move over that now. I'll see you soon.